Are you crazy? It was my lawyer, Donald Jenkins. They literally have an impenetrable case. There are probably a dozen witnesses, including your wife, not to mention very clear video footage from not one, not two, but 3 separate security cameras, all in damn broad daylight. Your fingerprints and DNA are on every weapon you've used. Your motive is very well documented. This doesn't even mention the fact that the cops actually caught you red-handed and their video cameras showed you attacking him. Yeah, these are all very good points. I could understand why he thought I might be crazy for refusing the plea deal they offered me. I plead guilty and get 5 years with another 5 years probation, or I will be found guilty in court and there's a chance the judge will sentence me to 15-20 years. On the other hand, if I were a normal, intelligent person, I probably wouldn't be in this situation at all. First of all, it would be better if I didn't actually commit the crime, and if I did, I would have acted much smarter and at least tried to cover my tracks. No, I did it, and I didn't care who knew about it. Listen, you hired me to represent and advise you. I'm telling you that you don't stand a chance in court. The DA is only offering this deal because of the backlog of cases. By entering into this deal with them, you save yourself the cost and time of a trial that is unnecessary. My best advice is to take the deal. You won't enjoy it. No lawyer in the world can save you from this. I can't even offer any protection. If we go to trial, all I can do is sit next to you and watch the DA crucify you. I don't even have anything to justify my decision with. As soon as the prosecution is finished, I will just drop my case too. I can't even call a single witness in your defense. You're finished. The only thing you can do is mitigate this disaster as much as possible by serving as little time as possible. Going to court will cost you a hell of a lot of money, just to make things worse for yourself. So, lawyer, when will the trial take place? How long will it last? And how long after that? Until sentencing, I asked. His eyes seemed to glaze over as he tried to come to terms with the fact that I simply didn't care. Due to the coronavirus, the actual trial will take place in about 6 months. Before that, there will be an arraignment, a hearing on charges, and an evidentiary hearing. I'll file motions that need to be heard, and the DA will file motions and a few other things. All I can do is try to delay the trial, but that won't change anything. Great! You need to call my sister and let her know what my bail will be. She'll post bail for me. It won't be cheap. Not your problem. Also, send her your invoices. She will definitely take care of them. He left. I'm sure he was thinking about doing a psychiatric evaluation on me. Perhaps there could be a plea of insanity. I was fine with that. I had no problem paying him more money for trying his best. Not that it really mattered. Oh, you might be wondering what's going on. Let me go back a couple of months. So my name is Dan Malloy. I am 56 years old and live with my wonderful and loving wife, Kimberly. We have been married 25 years and have 2 wonderful daughters, Gina and Susan. Gina is 22 years old and in her final year of college. Like me, she is studying mechanical engineering. Sue is 20 years old and studying business administration. They plan to take over my firm when I retire. We are a small company and we are not rich by any means, but we are comfortable. We own our house, still making payments, but only have a few years left. We drive decent cars, even if they aren't top-of-the-line luxury cars. I made sure I had enough money in my investment accounts to retire comfortably when I turned 65. Kimberly has been a stay-at-home mom since Gina was born. Once both children were fully settled into school, she did some volunteer work for various charities to get out of the house while the girls were at school. When Sue left for college, her volunteer hours increased to compensate for her becoming single. I didn't mind this, and even encouraged her. This made her happy, and also allowed us to attend a few more evening events. Kim and I had an amazing sex life as we dated, got engaged, and then got married. Having kids slowed us down a bit, but it was still quite frequent and exciting. As the kids grew, our responsibilities increased, and as we got older, things became a little less exciting and happened a little less frequently. Nevertheless, sex brought satisfaction to both of us. We probably did it 2 to 3 times a week. No, it wasn't as adventurous as when we were younger, and it was pretty predictable, but we still had sex. Everything collapsed on a clear autumn morning. The week before, I had been to the doctor to get some tests done. For some time, I felt overwhelmed and somewhat lethargic. I just felt like I was tired all the time. Kim noticed this and pursued me until I gave in and made an appointment. I was depressed when I left the office. The test results have arrived. I decided that I would not return to the office that day. I needed to go somewhere and think. Plans had to be made and decisions had to be made that would take place. I also needed to think about what I was going to tell my wife and daughters. I headed to a small sports bar. I like to have a burger and some alcohol while thinking about the news. I was standing at a traffic light outside a local college when I noticed my wife's car pulling away. This was not a surprise. One of the things she volunteered for was college tutoring. She earned a degree in English before we were married and has always loved literature. Having free time, she tutored some students on campus. What was surprising was that she was not alone. In fact, she wasn't even driving. Kim was sitting in the passenger seat, and a young and very large black guy was driving. I was 2 cars away from the traffic light, and they didn't see me. Even from the quick glance I took, it was quite obvious that Kim's full attention was focused on the guy who was sitting behind the wheel. It all seemed wrong. Since they turned onto the road in front of me and in the same direction, I decided to follow them. I made sure there were at least 2 cars between us. It didn't matter. 5 minutes later, I watched them pull into a cheap model. As they turned right to enter the motel parking lot, I turned left into the shopping center parking lot. I had just pulled into the street parking lot when I saw them get out of her car and enter the hotel lobby. A few minutes later, I watched as they walked across the second-floor balcony and entered the room. It didn't take a rocket scientist to understand that they wouldn't be studying literature there, but rather anatomy. 2 hours later, I saw them leaving the room. By this time, I had my digital camera ready. I always carry it with me because sometimes I need to take photos of projects to document problems that arise. I had my zoom lens on to make sure I captured their detailed photos. He kept his hand on her ass as they walked back to the lobby. This time, I was able to recognize this asshole. He was the star player on the university football team. He graduated this year and had scouts from every NFL team watching him at every game. In most mock drafts, he was selected in the mid to late first round. Even the most critical analysis predicted that he would never make it to the second round. The guy was going to be an undisputed star in the NFL. I'm a bit of a football nut, so I enjoy following the games and the analytics available. This helps a lot during office pools and game betting. I win a lot more than I lose. Well, my wife is cheating on me. For me, this is a complete collapse of the marriage. We discussed this a couple of times. Leave the rest means something to me. It is a vow to God, family, and friends to each other. This is an oath that you just can't break. Till death do you part. It's good, of course, that there is a divorce. Don't you need me anymore? Great. If you're stupid enough to want to leave, I'm smart enough to let you. I already fought for you once. That's what dates and engagements are for. I won that fight when she said, I agree. I didn't have to fight for her again. Fine. All the plans and decisions I had made had to be changed. I needed a completely new plan. I waited about 10 minutes after they left before starting the car and continuing on my way. I ended up at the sports bar, which was my original destination. I took my notepad with me and chose a booth at the back of the hall for some privacy. I ordered a burger, beer, and bourbon from the waitress, then began to formulate my plan. I wrote down notes as I thought. There were 4 columns. What will happen to me? What should I do with my daughters? What to do with a traitor? What to do with an asshole? First, did it really matter? Not particularly. There was an issue that made everything in this column moot. I had no way to forgive and forget what my cheating wife did. There could be no possible path to reconciliation. I also had no future with my daughters. Although I loved them with all my heart, I would never have been invited to their college graduation. I would never walk them down the aisle at their wedding. I would never put their children on my lap. Second, speaking of my daughters, I needed them to be taken care of. Of course, now they were adults and could take care of themselves. However, I wanted them to succeed. I still had to finish college. They then needed to gain experience before taking over the firm. I also needed to make sure they had enough resources to support them until they became completely self-sufficient. If I could leave them more to make their lives better, that would be a bonus. Third, as for the cheating wife, I wanted to hurt her as much as possible. I would show her what real revenge is. I gave her everything I had, and how did she repay me? Okay, she won't get anything else from me. Fourth, asshole. He took one of the most valuable things I had from me. I would repay him by taking his most expensive item. Once the brainstorming was complete, I started creating a flowchart. For those of you who are not familiar with it, a flowchart is used in engineering to define the path of decisions or events. This is an if-then document. You start with the first step. This step has two results. If yes, do it. Or if not, do this. From here it expands. The result of each step leads to the next step, until the problem is solved. This can be used to logically solve almost any problem. It can also be used as a way to identify possible problems and solve them in advance, as well as anticipate possible obstacles so that they can be addressed. 4 hours, 3 beers, and 2 double bourbons later, I had the outline of my plan. Unfortunately, 3 beers and 2 double bourbons later, I was in no condition to deal with a cheater. Yes, I probably shouldn't have done this, but I went back to the office. I was far from drunk. I had 5 drinks in 4 hours, so I wasn't too bad. Still, I probably exceeded the limit. I have a small room in my office with a bed and an attached bathroom. This was handy for those long evenings when I didn't have a deadline and had to work late. It wasn't unheard of for me to take advantage of this, but it wasn't common. I sent a quick message to my wife letting her know I had a deadline and there were some problems. I planned for a long night and just slept in the office. The next morning I got up and continued with my plans. By noon, I had everything laid out in detailed steps. By the end of the day, I had gone through each step, detail by detail, and revised as minor problems were discovered. I decided that I had 30 days to take care of everything before the last step. I stayed 2 hours later than usual, rearranging my steps to accommodate deadlines before heading home. By this time, I had enough control over my emotions to carry on as normal. I also made up a cover story to explain to my wife why I was so exhausted and what the doctor said. Basically, I was going to tell her that age and overwork were starting to take their toll. He wanted me to cut back on my work a little and play more sports. Of course, I would be too tired for sex for a while until my new lifestyle took effect. Yeah, I can never touch again to her, but she didn't need to know that. I managed to spend a normal evening at home. I didn't have to pretend to be tired. I was really tired. Kim tried to be gentle, but I was simply too exhausted from the mental stress and fitful sleep of the previous night. She asked about a project I was working on, and I gave her some bullshit about time-sensitive design in which the parameters had changed. She had never really been involved in the company, so I could tell her almost anything and she would believe me. The next morning I got up early. I needed to make some appointments and talk to people. I should probably point out here that the business, like most everything we owned, was registered in my name only. Yes, we started a business after we got married, but I had the income and authority. The company was created as an individual entrepreneur. The owner was me. Kim's name was not on any document. Regarding our home, again, the property and mortgage were in my name only. It was easier that way. Kim had no income, so she would only lower her credit rating. It didn't matter to either of us at the time because we planned to spend the rest of our lives together. Even if something happened to me, Kim would be the heir. I even made a will that states this. By the end of the week, I had a new will signed and notarized. I also hired a private investigator to watch my wife and gather more evidence of what she was doing. I had no doubts, but the girls would need more concrete evidence. It was a simple step. The next few steps will be a little more complicated and will require assistance from lawyers and business professionals. Carly, how is my beloved sister doing today? I asked when she answered the call. Damn it, I better be your favorite sister since I'm the only sister you have, you idiot. She answered, What do you want? What do I want? I'm deeply offended that you immediately assume I want something when I call you. Yes, yes, yes. When you start a conversation with that favorite shit, you always want something. What is this? Well, besides your sarcastic remarks, I really want to see my beloved and most beautiful sister. It's been a while and I thought you might want me to treat you to lunch today. Oh shit, it's worse than I thought. Favorite, beautiful, and you buy. Wait until I look at the sky and see if the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are approaching. My sister and I got along very well. We were pretty much all we had left after our parents died. She divorced her cheating husband about 5 years ago. She has since gone back to school and earned an MBA. She was currently working as an account manager for a manufacturing firm in the city. They were one of my clients. In truth, she was too smart for the position, and all she needed was experience and time before she could become vice president. If she had gotten her MBA and started working with them straight out of college, she could have become a CEO by now. Instead, she married this jerk and quit her job for a while. Seriously, Care, I really need your help. I need to see you today. Take the whole day off and meet me at Hammerhead's at 11. Wow. There was desperation in my voice, and I'm sure she heard the breakdown in it. Oh shit. Everything is bad, isn't it? This is worse than you can imagine. Please come. Of course, big brother. I will be there. Not only are you my big brother, but we both know that I owe you everything for what you have done for me. You don't owe me anything, little sister. I did what I did because you are my family. You needed help, and I just did what family does. Okay, then this time I will do as the family does. I was at the same table in the far corner when she entered. The hostess pointed in my direction and she came and sat down opposite me. Do you have to come back today? I asked. No. You asked me to take the afternoon off, which I did. She answered. Hearing this, I placed our order to the waitress. I knew what she liked, so I just ordered it for both of us. Bourbon at this time? Damn, this must be the apocalypse. Almost, I answered. Okay, Carly, here it is. You know that I have long wanted you to come over and work for me. I understand that you want to be on your own and earn money in your own way. You think that working for your family will look like nepotism. This is simply not true. You are very good at what you do, and you are underestimated where you work. I really need you now. Listen, Dan, I appreciate your offer, I really do. I'm just not sure how it will work. I know we get along great, but what would be different if you were my boss? I have heard horror stories about family members going to work for their relatives. I sighed. Okay, sister. I didn't want to do it this way, but I'm desperate. When I said that I needed you to work in my company, it was not an exaggeration. I need you to do more than just come work at my firm. I need you to take over as CEO. I need you to run the firm at least until Gina and Sui are ready. I need you to be their mentor and prepare them for this. Once they reach 30, you can start handing over responsibilities if you feel they are ready. Gina will likely take over as Chief Operating Officer, while Sue will become General Manager. By then, you will be able to retire or work as a consultant from time to time. Dan, you're kind of starting to bother me. If I take over your company and train your daughters to become managers when they graduate, what will you do? I couldn't help but notice that you missed that part. That's why I wanted you to just accept my offer. I didn't want to go into details right now. I was hoping to tell you differently. Now I have to blame you for this. I sighed. Carly, a week ago I learned 2 things, both on the same day. Nobody else knows this, but I'm dying. I have pancreatic cancer. They can't do anything. I'll be lucky if I live another 6 months. It's probably more like 3 or 4 months. Things will quickly go downhill. Another thing is that Kim is cheating on me. I'll handle things with the girls, and you'll be trustee of the property. Kim won't get a damn thing. Everything is put into trusts, which you will manage with the help of my lawyer. I have already drawn up a will in which this is indicated. I have transferred ownership to a company owned by you, Gina and Sue. I sold the house to the company, so now it also belongs to the company. I need you to warn me about this at work, then start spending a few hours every evening and sometime on weekends in my office for the next 2 weeks. We'll use this time to get you up to speed so you can get started as soon as you leave your current job. I'll still be there to help for a week or two, but no longer than that." We sat in silence for a while. She was trying to come to terms with what I had just told her, and I was waiting for her to process it. Our food arrived and we ate in silence. While the waitress was collecting our empty plates, Carly asked her for another shot of bourbon. "You're a bastard for putting me in this position," she finally said. "Of course I will do it. You don't leave me much choice." "I know. I'm sorry. Trust me, I wish I didn't have to do this. There are a couple more things I need you to do too, but we'll talk about that later." "Will I be angry about these other things?" she asked with a smile. "You can't even imagine how," I answered. So we spent the rest of the day discussing the firm and what it needed to do to prepare. She was not an engineer, but her role was mainly on the business side of things. I told her that I would be promoting one of my senior engineers to help her with this side of the business. We returned to my office, where we began reviewing invoices and other information she would need. Before we left for home, she used my computer to quickly write a letter of resignation from her job. By this point, events began to develop rapidly. Every day I felt myself becoming more exhausted. I spent long days in the office taking care of the firm and my evenings teaching Carly. We also spent several hours in the office on both weekends. Kim started to worry about how exhausted I was. I would come home, have a quick snack, and then pass out in bed. There was no sex. Kim tried to talk to me about how I work long hours. I explained that I had a couple of large, time-consuming projects in the works, but that everything would be completed in about 2 more weeks. I told her I was also making a few changes that would take a lot of the burden off of me, but I needed to take the time now to make sure things went smoothly later. She wasn't happy, but she seemed to understand. It was Friday, Carly's last day at her old job, and she officially starts on Monday. The private investigator finished his work and I sat in his office, looking over the results. She really had an affair with a football player. 3 times a week they left campus and went to a motel. There were even photographs and a short video taken through the slightly open curtain. There was no doubt that they had sex. I thanked him and paid the rest of the bill. He gave me paper documents and a flash drive. On Sunday evening, Carly and I finished talking everything over so she could start work the next morning. It had been a long day and I felt it. I knew I needed to get things done this week before I got too far along to do so. "Okay, Carly, we've discussed most of what I need you to do. From 7 tomorrow morning, you will be in charge. We met with a lawyer and accountant, and all necessary signatures were notarized. You are officially in charge of all trusts and the company. I'm not going to tell you when, where, or what, but I need you to post bail for me when my lawyer calls you." "Crap. You're going to do something stupid, aren't you?" "It's a matter of opinion, but probably." "Okay. But murderers are not released on bail. Nobody will die. You don't have to worry about that. I want them to live and regret their actions." "Crap. So, you don't want Kim to post bail for you? Is it because you don't expect her to be able to do it? I'm not going to hurt her physically. Still, I'm not sure she'll be willing to post bail for me." "Fine. Wednesday. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was hiding behind a large SUV next to my wife's car on the driver's side. It was parked in the motel parking lot. I heard them talking as they walked back to the car. It had to be fast and furious. From the very beginning, he was much bigger than me. Then there was the fact that he had the strength and endurance of a high-level athlete. Then there was the small problem that I was deprived of strength and stamina due to my illness. I heard the car unlock as he pressed the key fob. He chuckled at something my wife said as he opened the passenger side door. I heard him open the driver's door and attack. I was already swinging the bat when I rounded the back of the SUV. Kim's eyes began to widen at the sight of me. She didn't even have time to shout a warning when my bat came down hard on my right hand, which was resting on the roof of the car. When the bat bounced off, I continued my movement and uppercut him in the groin. He fell to the ground, trying to simultaneously grab his shattered arm and cover up groin. As he writhed on the asphalt, the bat struck each knee. Both kneecaps were crushed. I had just broken his right elbow when a blinding pain shot through me. My whole body tensed, then convulsed before I lost consciousness. When I came to, I was lying face down on the sidewalk with my wrists cuffed behind my back. I learned that due to poor timing, a patrol car had stopped on the street next to us just as I began my attack. The cops saw me jump out of the SUV and attack my wife's lover. They hit me with a stun gun, preventing the asshole from breaking his left elbow. When the ambulance arrived, 3 more patrol cars arrived. As soon as I regained consciousness, I was escorted and placed in the back seat of one of the cars. I found it interesting to watch my hysterical wife give a very animated version of events to a rather attractive policewoman. In the end, I was taken to the police station and arrested. Of course, they put me in an interrogation room. They used ordinary psychological techniques. Leave me alone for an hour or two. Good cop, bad cop. It's bullshit that everything will be fine if I just confess, etc. Seriously? Did they want recognition? Why? Unfortunately, these tricks only work on those who actually care what happens to them. I already knew what was going to happen. I was going to die, and there wasn't a damn thing that could change that. The DA had a lost cause, and she knew it. She also had a huge backlog of cases due to the coronavirus affecting judges, jurors, and other support staff. Why waste time on this? The outcome was a foregone conclusion. She proposed. My lawyer presented it to me. I refused. So we are back to the beginning of this story. Are you crazy? It was my lawyer, Donald Jenkins. They literally have an impenetrable case. There are probably a dozen witnesses, including your wife, not to mention very clear video recordings from not 1, not 2, but 3 separate surveillance cameras. And all this, damn it, in the middle of the day. Your fingerprints and DNA are on every weapon you've used. Your motive is very well documented. This doesn't even mention the fact that the cops actually caught you red-handed and their video cameras showed you attacking him. Yeah, these are all very good points. I could understand why he thought I might be crazy for refusing the plea deal they offered me. I plead guilty and get 5 years with another 5 years probation, or I will be found guilty in court, and there is a chance the judge will sentence me to 15-20 years. On the other hand, if I were a normal, intelligent person, I probably wouldn't be in this situation at all. First of all, it would be better if I didn't actually commit the crime, and if I did, I would have acted much smarter and at least tried to cover my tracks. No, I did it, and I didn't care who knew about it. Listen, you hired me to represent and advise you. I'm telling you that you don't stand a chance in court. The DA is only offering this deal because of the backlog of cases. By entering into this deal with you, you avoid the cost and time of litigation that is not necessary. My best advice is to take the deal. You won't enjoy it. No lawyer in the world can save you from this. I can't even offer any protection. If we go to trial, all I can do is sit next to you and watch the DA crucify you. I don't even have anything to justify my decision with. As soon as the prosecution is finished, I will just drop my case too. I can't even call a single witness in your defense. You're finished. The only thing you can do is mitigate this disaster as much as possible by serving as little time as possible. Going to court will cost you a hell of a lot of money just to make things worse for yourself. So, lawyer, when will the trial take place? How long will it last, and how long after that until sentencing? I asked. His eyes seemed to glaze over as he tried to come to terms with the fact that I simply didn't care. Due to the coronavirus, the actual trial will take place in about 6 months. Before that, there will be an arraignment, a hearing on charges, and an evidentiary hearing. I'll file motions that need to be heard, and the DA will file motions and a few other things. All I can do is try to delay the trial, but that won't change anything. Great. You need to call my sister and let her know what my bail will be. She'll post bail for me. It won't be cheap. Not your problem. Also, send her your invoices. She will definitely take care of them. He left. I'm sure he was thinking about doing a psychiatric evaluation on me. Perhaps there could be a plea of insanity. I was fine with that. I had no problem paying him more money for trying his best, not that it really mattered. Kim surprised me by actually coming to see me. I was still in prison. I was charged and given bail. Carly had to post bail for me, but she was a little upset about the carnage. She would have helped me out, but first she wanted me to cool off for a couple of days. "I'm sorry," she started. "Fine. It really didn't mean anything to me. There wasn't really any romance or feelings. It was easy sex." I finished it for her. "Yes, he was just so big and strong. He had that confidence that just takes over the whole room. And yes, he was a little better than you. Congratulations. I'm glad he was able to make you happy." She definitely wasn't happy now. She began to sob, then abruptly stood up and ran out. Well, the next day I was released on bail. Carly picked me up and took me back to the office. "Well, if you wanted to ruin his life, you succeeded. He will never play sports again. Even for fun, his right hand is crushed. They expect it to restore, at best, only 50% of its use. Both knees are destroyed. He'll be able to walk again, but that's it. His elbow will never fully extend either," she said after we sat down in her office. So I did it. Why such a massacre? He took away one of the most valuable things I had. I decided to repay him in kind. He took my wife from me. I took the game of football away from him. An eye for an eye. The future is for the future. You realize they're going to sue, don't you? Sue whom and for what? Are they going to sue me? I'll be dead long before this comes to trial. If they try to seize my property, they will find that I don't have it. All I have at the moment is a couple $1,000s, which I can live on for a couple more months. They can sue as much as they want, but they have nothing to recover. They can't go after the company because I already left the company. They can't go after girls because they are adults and on their own. The only person they can go after is Kim, and I really don't care. Besides, she doesn't have the money to pay them off either. Fine. So, what's your plan for now? I'm going to die. I refuse the deal that was offered to me. It'll be a couple of months before the case goes to trial, and by then, I'll be gone. You really need to talk to your daughters. They should know, and they really care about what you did. I plan to do this tonight. Actually, you can do this in a few minutes. They're on their way. I have reserved a conference room for you for the rest of the day. Half an hour later, I sat across from my two daughters at the conference room table. "Dad, what the hell? The video of you beating that guy with a baseball bat is all over the news." "And what the hell did Mom do there?" Gina asked. I pushed the folder towards them. "Your mom was there because they had just left the motel room where had sex. He was your mother's lover. These are documents from the private investigator I hired. Did you know that he was a star football player in college and that he was expected to be drafted in the first or second round? You ruined his career. Yes, I knew that. I did this on purpose. He took the love of my life, so I took what he loves. But now he'll sue you for everything you have and you'll go to jail for a long time. Neither one nor the other will happen. First, I made sure I had nothing to lose. I don't have any assets that anyone can take. The company is no longer registered in my name. It now belongs to a company in the name of Carly and you. All the money is in trust funds for the two of you. The house is actually in a trust in your name. You own everything. Carly is the executor of the trust. Your mother has no access to any of this. What you do for her is no longer my concern. Is there any chance you can make peace before you go to prison? No chance at all, and I already said that I won't go to jail. Dad, be realistic. It is impossible that you will not be condemned. We watched all the shows about it and looked at all the articles. There's no way you can get away with what you did. I won't get away with this. I'm not even trying. My emotions overwhelmed me from the moment my beautiful daughters entered the room. It hit me suddenly like a truck hit me. I wouldn't have been there for their college graduations. I wouldn't be there to walk them down the aisle at their weddings. I would never be able to hug my grandchildren. I cried. I felt the presence of two people next to me, and they were holding me with their arms wrapped around me. "Oh my God, what happened, Daddy?" Susan asked. "I'm dying, little ones. I have a really bad form of cancer. I have 2 months left at best." They both screamed. I suddenly felt someone behind me hug the three of us. I looked and saw tears running down Carly's cheeks. The four of us sat and cried for a few more minutes until we were able to get our emotions under control. Finally, I sat the girls back down in their chairs. As you can see, I will be gone long before my trial begins. Besides, I'll be dead before any trial even begins. Once I leave, they won't be able to get anything from me. Everything I had was disposed of long before the attack. They can't even foreclose on the house because I sold it to a company. The proceeds from the sale went to a trust. This trust will be available to you when you reach age 30. I have no assets. I cashed out all my investments and donated them to charity. Why didn't you tell us about this earlier? Gina asked. I found out about this about a month ago. Right after I left the doctor's office, I saw your mother's car driving away from the university. Her lover was driving and she was in the passenger seat. I followed them to the motel they went to. I watched them enter the room, then waited for about 2 hours for them to leave. I was devastated. Not only did I find out that I only had months to live, but I also discovered that the love of my life was cheating on me. I spent the next 2 days planning what I would do. Here is the end result of this planning. We talked and cried together for another hour. Then it was time for business again. I invited Carly to do this. We discussed the company's new organizational structure. When Gina graduates, she will begin working with engineers. She will participate in all projects and attend management meetings. Once she receives her PE license, she will be given her own projects to manage. Over time, she will begin to help Carly run the company. It is hoped that by the time Gina turns 30, she will be able to take over as Chief Operating Officer. As for Sue, she will become Carly's assistant when she graduates. She will work side by side with Carly in the business side of the firm. Sue will take over as CEO when she is ready. With Gina handling operations and Sue handling business, everything should work out well. Carly will also be available to consult and arbitrate between the two. This was a week later. I lived with my sister and hadn't spoken to Kim since she visited me in prison. I was sitting on the couch in Carly's living room. A bright light was shining on me, and sitting opposite me was a rather attractive red-haired girl. Good morning. This is Amy Brown from Crap News. I'm here with Dan Malloy, who is charged with causing grievous bodily harm during a brutal attack on a star player. Mr. Malloy kindly agreed to an interview. She headed towards the cameras. Then she turned to me. Mr. Malloy, I'm actually surprised that you're giving an interview. Are you concerned about the judge's gag order in this case? It doesn't bother me at all. There's really not much he can do about it. By the time it airs and he sees it, there's nothing he can do about it. But he can charge you with contempt of court and send you to prison. I laughed. Well, I really despise the divorce laws in this country. Look at them. A wife can cheat on her husband as much as she wants. If her husband tries to divorce her, she will get the children, the house, child support and maintenance. She usually also receives most of the other assets. The poor man who marries her ends up living in a cheap apartment, eating top-quality ramen, and giving most of his income to his ex-wife to party with her string of lovers. They reward traitors and punish those who have done nothing wrong. Aren't you afraid of going to prison? Not in the least. What about the long prison sentence you are expecting? First of all, I wasn't actually convicted of anything. In our country, there is always a principle of innocent until proven guilty. Yes, but you must agree that there is irrefutable evidence against you. Yes, I am aware of this. I'm not the least bit worried about this. Fine. I can't wait to find out how you can be so sure of this. But what about Jamal's lawsuit against you? I understand that he is seeking over $40 million in compensation for lost income, pain, and suffering, not to mention lifelong physical maintenance. Blood from a stone. It will not happen. There's nothing to take from me. I'm unemployed and homeless. I have no assets. But you have a successful engineering firm and a huge house. No, that's not true. I sold my business and home over a month ago. I put everything I owned into trust funds to ensure that my children would be taken care of if anything happened to me. All this was absolutely legal and ethical. All taxes have been duly paid. I cashed out all my investments and gave it all to charity. I don't even have a salary to steal. Fine, let's get back to the attack. You never denied that you did it, but you never said why. Why did you attack him, and why so viciously? It seems like you deliberately targeted areas that would destroy any chance of an NFL career. Oh, that was certainly my goal. If the police hadn't used a stun gun on me, I would have crushed his other elbow and then added a couple more good blows to the groin before stopping. It was never my intention to kill him, just to maim him and destroy his capabilities. The attempted murder charge brought by the DA is a joke. My intention was never his death. In fact, I tried my best to avoid blows that could kill him. If I had wanted to do this, my first blow would have hit him on the head, not on the arm. So why did you attack him in the first place? Isn't it obvious? Where did the attack take place? In the motel parking lot. Who was with him? My wife. They had an affair. They had just left the room they had been in for 2 hours. I decided that if he could take away the most important thing in my life, my soulmate, I would take away the most important thing in his life, his football career. Understand? You have certainly achieved your goal. What about your wife? After all, it takes two to tango. Are you planning to take revenge on her somehow? Yes, but I won't reveal it now. I won't use any physical violence on her, so you don't have to worry about that. My revenge on her for betraying her will be completely legal. Oh, she will suffer greatly, but she will not be able to do anything about it. In fact, what I planned has already been done, but she doesn't know about it yet. When will she find out? When will this interview air? Fine. Let's get back to your upcoming prison sentence. It doesn't threaten me. I still haven't been convicted by a court. Then, it's okay. How about we return to the question of your likely conviction and prison sentence? This question is much better. So why are you so sure that you will not be convicted and sent to prison? Let me begin by recounting the events of a day that occurred just over a month ago. I felt very tired and exhausted for a while, so I went to the doctor to get tested. About a week later, I came back to find out the results. They weren't good. I had just left the doctor's office when I saw my wife's car leaving campus. I thought it was weird because Jamal was driving her car and Kim was in the passenger seat. I followed them to the motel and waited several hours for them to come out. After seeing them together, I hired a private investigator to get hard evidence of what I saw. I also started taking action according to what the doctor told me. Initially, these measures were supposed to include caring for Kim. After what I saw, I simply crossed out this part of the plans. Now everything I did was to make sure my daughters were taken care of. They were always going to end up taking over the business, and I just made it official. I also hired a really good businesswoman to act as CEO and prepare the girls to take over when they were ready. I also transferred the company from a sole proprietorship to an LLC and also transferred authority in my own name. All the money I had is now put into a trust fund for the girls that is controlled by someone else. I also put the title of my home into a trust fund as a gift to the girls. So I'm not the least bit worried about possible recriminations because I won't be around. The doctor told me that I had really aggressive pancreatic cancer. It's incurable. At best, I have 2 months left. More than likely, I will die within a month. My trial won't even start for another 3 months. What are they going to do? As for my wife, I'm leaving her with nothing. Perhaps our daughters will take pity on her and help her. It's not my concern anymore. In addition, documents proving her affair with the student will be sent to the university council, as well as to the relevant law enforcement agencies. I also have a copy for you if you would like. I must inform you that copies will also be sent to all major media outlets. You just ruined their lives. Don't you think it was a little over the top? Not in the least. They ruined my life, or what was left of it. Imagine being given the worst possible news and all you wanted was for your spouse to comfort you. Instead, less than half an hour later, you discover that your spouse is cheating on you. Yes, I will die soon, but they took away my chance to receive comfort from my wife in my last days. They ruined the rest of my life, so I ruined them. At least they will be alive and can try to restore everything. Perhaps he can at least become an example for all the other scumbags who like to seduce married women. I shrugged. Fine. That's all we have at this moment. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. This is Amy Brown from Crap News. Amy gathered her notes and stood up. She shook my hand and passed me a note before leaving. After she left, a stunning blonde came in and sat next to her. A few minutes later, she was ready, and the dazzling light came on again. This is Jessica Moore from Cunt News. I am with... The judge would have been seriously pissed off when these interviews aired. I decided it was best to get them all done in one day before he could do anything about it. In any case, this was my last day of freedom. It didn't matter much where I was tomorrow. If he wanted to put me in jail for contempt of court, it would cost him a pretty penny. My lawyer would take care of that. Well, that pretty much ends there. I mustered what little strength I could still use before the first interview. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. Early the next morning, Carly took me to hospice, where I would stay until everything was over. Yes, the judge disrespected me. He was about to send the cops to take my ass to jail when my lawyer and doctor informed him that I would need to be admitted to the infirmary due to the state of my health. The cost of this will be high. They also indicated that they would be sure to mention it in the media. Instead, he had me put on an ankle monitor to make sure I wasn't leaving the hospice. I laughed. I had nowhere to go anyway. Carly and the girls visited me almost every day. I understood that they could not always come, but they were there when they could. Sometimes I was able to video chat with them for a while. They kept me informed of events. Kim tried to visit me, but I crossed her off my visitor list. She gave the girls letters to give to me. They handed them to me when they arrived, and I just threw them in the trash after they left. I wasn't interested in anything, she said. The district attorney initially tried to reschedule the trial date. My lawyer resisted. It soon became obvious that it didn't matter. I wouldn't be able to attend anyway. My lawyer then began a public campaign about how the DA was wasting money and resources by pursuing a case in which the defendant would be dead before trial. Being reasonable, the DA quietly dropped the case. Yes, a lawsuit was filed. In fact, both Kim and I were in it. Since we were still married, she would be responsible for my debts after my death. This made me laugh. My girls are here with me. Carly, too. I'm so exhausted. I can say this is the end. I don't want to fight this anymore. I have nothing left and no reason to continue. I see another person slowly enter my room. Kim, my wife. I haven't seen her since she visited me in prison immediately after my arrest. Yes, I asked her to come. She nervously enters the room and sits next to the bed. I'm sorry, she said. I know. I also wish. I overdid it with you. No, you didn't do that. If you left me anything, it would simply be taken away in a lawsuit. Besides, I was the one who screwed up and started the affair. I forgive you for this. I asked the girls to take care of you. I don't want you to go hungry or be homeless. I forgive you too. It's probably for the best. This asshole will definitely try to take everything I have. As long as I have a place to live and enough money to live on, everything will be fine. I'm sorry I couldn't comfort you these past few months. That's all I did. I will have to live with this regret for the rest of my life. Don't be too hard on yourself. I left you. I could just face you and get over it. Instead, I acted out of revenge. You did what you thought you should have done. You were rightfully angry. Please know this. I never stopped loving you. I will love you until the day I die. When this happens, we will meet again, and I will love you forever. You are my soulmate. I forgot about it for a while, but I'm back. I see that you are tired now. Sleep, my love. Go in peace. We'll meet again. Dad prepaid for his funeral. He also had a funeral account set up in case his mother needed it. The plots have also already been purchased. We decided to have a private ceremony. It was only a family ceremony, but we agreed that 2 reporters could attend and film the video. We were adamant that they would not make a scene. It was a pleasure, and Amy and Jessica were very respectful. Jamal actually filed a lawsuit against his dad's estate. As you already know, he had no property to fight for. They tried to take over the business and trust funds, but we were able to defeat these claims. Dad had nothing to do with the firm at the time of the attack, and the trust funds were sacrosanct. Besides, Carly, Sue, and I were not involved in any way. Mom also acted dishonestly. A judgment was issued against her to recover $20 million. Even though she had nothing that they could take away, the decision still stood. Sue and I hired my mother as a cook and housekeeper. She gets free room and board. We make sure she has enough cash for the fun she needs. Everything is legal and fair, at least as far as anyone could prove. His lawyers sniff around for something from time to time. They don't get paid until he can collect the money. He doesn't have the money to pay them. Being them sucks. Eventually, they will get tired of it and give up, at least until the fact that Mom has a lot of money becomes known to the general public. However, her name is kept secret. She's suffered enough. There is no point in adding anything else to this. Mom doesn't really date. She socializes with her friend groups. Sometimes she doesn't come home until the next morning. Neither of them are serious, just friends with benefits. She is adamant that she will never be in a serious relationship again. She will remain free until she meets her dad again. As for Jamal, he lives with his parents. His bedroom is on the first floor because he is not very good at using stairs. He was expelled, as expected, and refused to even think about going to another school. He just sits and plays video games, waiting for the money to come to him. That's probably why his parents put up with him, although I heard mutterings about how they were getting tired of waiting. Jamal may soon face a choice, be evicted or take action. So here's how things stand at the moment. Sue and I really take over the firm, and Aunt Carly stops by sometimes to help. She is now retired and living a good life. She even takes her mom on a cruise a couple times a year. Right now, Sue has a steady boyfriend, and it looks pretty serious. As for me, well, I haven't found a single guy who looks like Mr. Right, although there are several mistresses who are now Miss Correct, one of which may soon lose the last word in its title. Her name is Amy, and she is a local news reporter. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.